Hey everyone, it's Ted. I'm standing here at the back of the car, which is the most recent place that I've made progress. This video is a few weeks overdue because I was intending on it being my 1-year anniversary video, being 1 year since the kit arrived. And originally I'd taken some video, taken a few pictures, and I was gonna actually try to do an edited video instead of this one-take stuff. And I spent a few minutes on it and I realized, yeah, this isn't going to work. My hats are off to the YouTubers that are actual YouTubers, which I am not, nor do I claim to be, who spend the time to do the editing because it is a lot of work and it's very tedious. So this is my 1-year video plus an update, and I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the costs that I've incurred. But first, let me just talk about where I am. All I've done since the last video is I've started on the fuel lines. They're not attached to anything, but you can kind of see. I talked in a previous video about what I was going to do with the fuel lines, I think. But basically, need some adapters, but I'm running them from the fuel pump basically over to this rectangular tube forward. And then from this tube here, they come down. They're gonna go across the 4-inch tube. And right now, I only have them to just forward of the control arm. I'm gonna put the fuel filter right around here. And biggest reason for that is because that's a real convenient location with where the pipes, or where the tubing ends and then ends up, and then gets started on the next one. That it'll be easy to service, it's a good location, and I'm going to make sure it's up far enough that I don't have to worry about it getting caught on something when I'm driving on the road. Always a possibility, but that's kind of similar to where a lot of cars have them from the factory, so I think I'll be fine. So that's pretty much all I've done as far as actual work goes. Up front in the engine, I haven't done anything that you can physically see, but what I have done is I've taken my intake and I've lined it up. I've put it on the heads with without the gaskets on to try to see. If you recall before, I was trying to figure out whether or not the intake was going to need to get milled at an angle so that it would fit, and I've convinced myself it doesn't need it. But I am going to put some Permatex right stuff around the ports when I put the gaskets on to just make sure I have a little extra sealing, but I think it's going to fit fine and seal correctly. The one thing I'm going to have to figure out something is that if you take a look on the HVAC box at the attached to the firewall, there's those 2 holes, and if you look, you can see those holes line up basically with the intake studs. So kind of come back over here, you can see that those holes are going to point right about here on this, they're going to be physically right about here, so a couple inches back from right here on this intake. So I need to take a look at what exactly comes out of there and whether I think that's going to work or whether I think it's going to need to get relocated. I think they're going to need to get relocated, and that shouldn't be too difficult, but I need to talk to Richard at North Race Cars because he's who I'm buying the HVAC kit from. So other than that, not a whole lot of progress. Basically, I need to order some fittings from Summit so that I can finish up the fuel lines, and then I need to obviously finish that up. I'm planning on, I still haven't put the water pump and timing cover on permanently. I do have all the parts I need. I just need to put some right stuff on the gaskets and then torque those down correctly. So that's all stuff I'm hoping to get done over the next week while my wife is out of town. Maybe not. I guess we'll just see what happens. So 1-year anniversary video. How much have I spent? How much have I spent working on it? What do I have any regrets so far? So starting off with the cost, I've been keeping good records of how much I've spent. and the total is right about at $29,000. That includes about $18,000 for the kit from Factory 5, and I ordered a base kit plus some options. Then $1,300 for the shipping, so that's included in that $18,000 I just mentioned. And then the rest of the 11 grand includes things like wheels and tires, engine, water pump, timing cover, racing oil pan, which is in the box. I'm not going to open that. All of brakes, all of the things that aren't included in the base kit that I've bought so far. Intake over there, that's another one. It doesn't include, the $29,000 does not include the parts cars I've bought. And in fact, the number is lower because of the parts cars I bought, because I managed to sell enough parts off of both of the parts cars that I came out ahead. So that means the parts I got off of the parts cars were free. So for example, these heads came off of my first parts car. They were free, literally. And but then I had to put $400 worth of machine work in. I didn't get that much out of the parts cars. So $29,000 in so far, and I would say that if you look at what I have to buy next and or remaining, I need to buy an ECU, I need to buy some ignition components, I need to buy the stuff for making my wiring harness. I still haven't paid for the HVAC stuff kit yet. I just have the box. I haven't bought the AC compressor, and I'm going to do something different with that. So I've got a good amount left. I think total I'm probably going to end up at about $35,000 in on this build. Originally I'd been hoping to get somewhere in the mid-20s, and I would say you absolutely can do that. The thing is, if you're going to do this and you're going to build it using a lot of new parts as opposed to a lot of used parts, it's going to be pretty hard. I could have definitely saved several $1,000s if I went with some options that were perhaps less customized, more run-of-the-mill. So that water pump was $400, I guess $400 or $450, something like that. I could have saved a whole lot of money by going with a normal water pump, but I wanted to go with an electric. Oil pan, $400. I could have spent a lot less money on a normal oil pan if I didn't want to go with the racing oil pan. Things like that. So a lot of it depends on what you want out of the car and what you want to do with it. So regrets, changes that I would make. I think I would say overall I don't have any regrets. I think that's probably going to be something or things I would do differently. I think that's going to be more of a topic for after I've gotten this running and driving and get to put some miles on it. A couple things I'm a little bit questionable on that I've done. First one is the solid rear axle. I went with the 3-link because that seemed like that's a good compromise on price. The independent rear is just a whole lot more money. It's a lot more money to do versus a solid rear. That said, I sort of wonder if I should have, just because an independent rear is going to handle better and it's going to provide a better ride. But we'll see. So that's one that I'm questioning a little bit. Another one that I'm sort of questioning is I think I've had another video where I've talked some about the engine, and I'm doing the 351 instead of the 302. I sort of wonder whether I should have done the 302 because that would have saved me about 50 pounds, and it would have been a little bit smaller of an engine. You can see there's still plenty of room in the engine bay, but would have been a little bit shorter, a little bit narrower, and saved that weight. Similarly, I sort of wonder if I shouldn't have gone with a T5 instead of the TKO. But all of these things that I'm sort of questioning about would have added more cost, as weird as it sounds. So the independent rear, there's no question on that. It's going to cost you several $1,000s more to do. There's just no way around that. Factory 5 charges more for the option. Then you have to buy the independent rear, which is worth a lot more than a solid rear. Solid rears you can get for next to nothing. and then independent rears cost a lot more. The TKO, that I got a phenomenal deal on at $2,000, brand new in box. So if you're gonna do a mid-shift kit on a T5 and you're gonna try to have it rebuilt properly, you can't do it for $2,000. I was looking at spending significantly more to have a T5 with a mid-shift location versus what this TKO ended up costing me. Yeah, that said, it would have saved me it would have saved me another 30 pounds or so. And it would have been a lighter shifting transmission. Not that I mind a heavy shifting transmission, but it's a lightweight car. So I'm sort of wondering about that. I've owned TKOs before in my V12 Jaguars. I really like them, but it's one thing I'm questioning a bit. And so then the 351 kind of, the 351 sort of drove the need for a TKO because bigger engine, more torque, needs a beefier transmission. So it all kind of, those two items really go together, but between the two of them, I could have saved 80 pounds on the car, and it would have been 80 pounds. If you take a look at where all of that weight is, it's all in the front half of the car, which is really where you want to try to get the most weight out. So, like I said, I'm not going to say that those are regrets at this point, but just things that I'm sort of wondering about. The other side of it is that there's nothing about the 351 and the TKO that's permanent. So if I decide later on after I've gotten this car on the road, you know what, I really want to go with a lighter weight engine and a lighter weight transmission, I can do that. I can pull those out relatively easily and make that change. The independent rear, that's not really something I can do with any level of simplicity. That would be major surgery, including welding. So if you're going through the process of deciding what you want to buy and what you want to go with, I would, I think a lot of people have asked, one of the biggest questions I've gotten from friends of mine is, why didn't you go with a Coyote? Don't you wish you went with a Coyote? Absolutely not. I am very glad I didn't go with a Coyote. Couple of reasons. They're good values, and they make great power. They're great engines. No argument there. And I'm not going to fault anybody for going with a Coyote. I'd never tell you that an old pushrod 302 or 351 is better, but it is different. It provides a different experience. It's the overhead cam engines. You've got more weight up top. You've got all the computers. You've got the variable valve timing stuff. I don't want any of that. I just want a simple old school engine that sounds like an old school engine. The Coyotes sound nice, but they don't sound old school. It's a different sound, not what I was going for. So I don't regret that one bit. But remember, engines are also hard to change in terms of, if you go for a 302 or a 351, it's the same mounts. If you go for a 4.6 or a Coyote, it's different. So definitely figure out which one of those you want when you're ordering. But if you're thinking 302 or 351, you don't have to decide that when you order. You can wait on that a little bit longer. But I would say if you're thinking maybe you want the independent rear and the cost isn't too big of a deal for you, for me, I really didn't want to spend that extra few $1,000s on it. So for me, it was a big deal. But if it's not, if it's within your budget, I would say order the independent rear and just do that from day one. And then you can think about the transmission and the engine to a certain extent. As I get further along, once I start driving it, then I'll make sure to do some more updates on how I feel about it at that point. But at this point, those are the only things. I don't regret at this point going with stock Mustang brakes versus the Willwood ones. Willwoods are a lot more expensive. These Mustang brakes are just fine. These are the ones off of a 2000, I think a 2000 through 2004 Mustang, and the rears are considered the Cobra brakes. They look good, and they're gonna stop just fine. It's a 2,300 pound car. I don't need the Willwoods. I'm happy with that. No regrets at this point on the manual steering or manual brakes, but again, some of these things, until you drive them, won't really know. So So there's my summary 1 year in. Would I do this again? Absolutely. I can't tell you how many hours I spent working on this car because I haven't logged the exact number. But it's really, in 1 year's time, I've gotten this from a bunch of boxes worth of parts to a rolling car with a drivetrain in it that frankly doesn't need all that much to get it to the point of driving. It's just that I just need to get it over that hurdle, and I will. But I'm very glad that I made the decision. I would say that I guess my biggest advice would be if you're questioning whether or not to do this, then if you have the space and you can carve out some amount of time, then do it. And of course, if you can, afford it, I would say do it. Because the sooner you start on it, the sooner you get to finish it and enjoy it, and then start building another one. At least that's what I plan to do. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment. If you see anything that you want some more details on, let me know, and I'll do a video on that. And in the meantime, thanks again, and we'll do another update soon.